Yeah, y'all go ahead and get in here, man. It's gonna be a very pivotal broadcast right here, and I already know that a certain person, bitch ass, is gonna show up because in the way this pertains to that certain person. Tech boy, what up, man? Yeah, y'all get in here, man. Cam, what up, man? Yeah, y'all go ahead and get in here. Kwame Kaji, what up, man? Tech boy writes, the TPS thing was an obvious no-brainer. This was the real test for the Supreme Court of the United States. They absolutely dropped the ball here. I wonder if the president has any contingency plans or other loopholes to exploit. We'll talk about that. Um, Line the MGTOW, what up, man? And for all of the people that celebrating this shit, don't get too happy. Do not get too happy. Don't get too happy. Yeah, don't get too happy. Yeah, don't get too happy, man. Doug Dissonant, what up? Hey, it's a great. That's a great. That's a great question, Tech Boy. What value does our citizenship hold if anybody can just finesse their way into it? Exactly. Hey, Distant Rose, what up? Who finna run through hella holes? You? Okay. Uh, Tally ho, shit. If you finna come here and run through holes, that's what everybody else doing. Shit. Tally ho, shit. A few more people, man. Need a few more people in here. Let me go ahead and set these clips up right quick. Okay. You know, it's a lot of people running victory laps on TikTok and Instagram. Silly, 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 silly. First, let's get to the news. Then I'll offer my commentary, and we'll wait for uninvited people to show up, especially with a subject like this. Yeah, what up, Trevor? Yes, yeah. Hey. After you get 25, man, a week will seem like a day. I don't know if your daddy ever told you that. Supreme Court strikes down Trump's order ending birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court on Tuesday struck down President Donald Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship, the guarantee of citizenship to virtually everyone born in the United States. In a decision by Chief Justice John Roberts in Trump versus Barrera, the justices agreed with the challengers, as well as all of the lower courts around the country have considered the issue that Trump's order cannot be reconciled with the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which confers citizenship on anyone born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Writing in for the majority, Roberts emphasized that the children born of parents unlawfully or temporarily present in the United States satisfy both elements of the citizenship clause under the Constitution, that they shall be concluded they are citizens at birth. In a dissenting opinion, Justice Samuel Alito called the ruling one of the most important decisions in the history of the court and a serious mistake. A careful analysis of the text of the 14th Amendment and the process that led to its adoption, Alito argued that it does not degrade the concept of United States citizenship in the way he said it content. The 14th Amendment confers citizenship only on those children who at birth owe allegiance to this country. Trump issued the executive order at the center of the case on January 20th, 2025, shortly after he was sworn into office for a second term. It provided that the babies who are born in the United States to parents who are in the country either illegally or temporarily are not automatically entitled to citizenship. Although Trump's order was slated to go into effect 30 days after he signed it, it never did. Instead, several federal judges across the U.S. prohibited the Trump administration from enforcing the order while challenges move forward in the court. Faced with the prospect that Trump's order could be on hold indefinitely, the Trump administration came to the Supreme Court last spring asking justices on whether or not lower courts can issue universal or nationwide injunctions that bar the enforcement of laws or policies anywhere in the country. By a vote of 6-3 in Trump versus Casa, the court ruled they cannot. After the Supreme Court's decision prohibiting universal injunctions, cases challenging the merits of Trump's order continued in the lower courts. On January 10th, a federal judge in New Hampshire issued a preliminary injunction that blocked the government from enforcing the order against a class of babies born after January 2025 who are or would be denied U.S. citizenship under District Judge Joseph LaPlante concluded that the executive order contradicts the text of the 14th Amendment and the century-old untouched precedent that interprets it. By that, they talking about Wong Kim Ark. The Trump administration appealed to the Supreme Court on September 26, asking it to review LaPlante's ruling without waiting for federal appeals court to weigh in. The justices granted the government's request on December 5th, and it was argued on April 1st. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court upheld the lower court's decision. Roberts explained that under early English law, children who were born in Britain automatically became British subjects. This view crossed the Atlantic with the colonists and was adopted with little fanfare after the Revolution, Roberts observed. In 1868, the 14th Amendment was adopted to repudiate the Supreme Court's infamous 1857 ruling in Scott versus Sanford. Now I want y'all to pay attention to that because one of my guys called me up earlier. Shout out to him, Wiz the C, called me up earlier, and I told him that I thought that this was like the Dred Scott decision, but in reverse. And I explained that later on in the broadcast. I'll explain that later on. Holding that a black person whose ancestors were brought to this country and was sold as enslaved persons were not entitled to any protection from federal courts because he was not a U.S. citizen. In doing so, Roberts wrote that the framers of the amendment intended to permanently enshrine the existing understanding of birthright citizenship. A child born on American soil is subject to American law and was made an American citizen. The Supreme Court then reaffirmed the principle in 1898 in the case of Wong Kim Ark versus the United States, who was born in San Francisco to parents of Chinese descent. When he returned to the United States after a visit to China in 1895, immigration officials would not allow him to enter the country on the grounds that he was not a U.S. citizen. What the court held in Wong Kim Ark was simple, Roberts stressed. The citizenship clause incorporated the common law and granted citizenship to nearly all children born in the United States. Not surprisingly, then, in 128 years ever since, we have repeatedly misunderstood that case to guarantee citizenship to all children born in the United States and subject to his power. Now, that right there, the Wong Kim Ark versus the United States, that is the first case of a non-black person taking advantage of civil rights that were meant for black people. I don't give a fuck how you want to look at it. That's what the Wong Kim Ark case is. Roberts rejected the government's argument that even if birthright citizenship was the norm in early U.S. history, by the time the 14th Amendment was enacted, the key question was whether a child owed primary allegiance to the United States, which in turn hinged on domicile. And watch this. I'm going to point out the hypocrisy of Roberts' decision, and he knows better. But we in a situation now in which you seriously got to wonder which high public official or which set of high public officials are compromised by foreign powers. You really got to wonder that at this point. Citizenship then and now, Roberts concluded, was the right to have rights, to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended their promise to every freeborn person in his land. He's a motherfucking lie. John Roberts is a motherfucking lie. He's a motherfucking lie. Okay? It wasn't extended to every person born on this land. Justice Brett Kavanaugh agreed with the result that the court reached, that the president's executive order is invalid, but not in its reasoning, in his view. Trump's order does not violate the 14th Amendment, but it does violate a federal law providing that children who are born in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are U.S. citizens. Kavanaugh suggested could amend the law or otherwise enact new legislation establishing exceptions to birthright citizenship for children born to foreign citizens or unlawfully or temporarily in the country, but he noted Congress has not yet done so. Justice Clarence Thomas penned a lengthy dissent with Justice Neil Gorsuch. He called the majority's account not historically accurate because it's not historically accurate. Or did you forget about the part where it said except Indians not taxed? Because if that's the case, you wouldn't have had to wait all the way until 1923 to give the fucking Siberians Citizenship. You wouldn't have had to wait that long. Justice Clarence Thomas penned a lengthy dissent, which Neil Gorsuch joined. He called the majority's account not historically accurate and said that it adds to the sad history of the 14th Amendment, which was designed and understood to secure equal rights for freed blacks, but instead has been repurposed for political projects that the Reconstruction Congress did not support. Thank you. Gorsuch also wrote a separate brief dissent in which he appeared to suggest that Trump's executive order might violate the Constitution as it applies to the children of undocumented immigrants who intend to live in the United States permanently if those parents are not domiciled here. Gorsuch queried, then where are they domiciled? And if the answer is nowhere, he continued, how can we reconcile the conclusion with the court's understanding that recognition that every person domiciled somewhere? Because the challengers in this case have argued that Trump's order is invalid in all circumstances rather than just some. Gorsuch explained these questions may not be properly before us, but their answers are deniably important to the nation committed to a view of citizenship open to all children born here, to parents who can call this country their home. All right. Now, for somebody, a John Roberts his stature in the legal world, bruh, you are a fucking Supreme Court justice. You're a Supreme Court justice. So we know damn well that you know the Constitution in and out. And you know that it says that this applied, who this applied to. It's only three even if you go back, because I don't want this live to be 3 hours. I don't want this live to end up being 3 hours. First of all, I'm gonna put the question to y'all. Do you want me right now to go and pull up the notes like I did before when I talked about the 14th Amendment? Do you want me to go and pull up the notes of the framers of the 14th Amendment? Well, Science got rights. Why the hell was Britain even brought up when it comes to the citizenship of this nation? I don't like when people do that, especially somebody in the high courts. I don't like when people do it, but they will commonly bring up British. I've even heard some justices go all the way back to Roman law to establish traditions and precedents that dovetail and hinge into our law. Some of our laws are based off of things that happened over in England. I'll give you an example. The way that we have the presumption of motherhood here in the United States when it comes to family court matters, that comes from the tender age doctrine of Britain. So that's what they meant. Just a way to establish, just a way to academically establish traditions and precedents in law, or concepts of laws that we have here, or to show where laws came from, right? That's why people do that. Again, I don't agree with it, because if you read the Bill of Rights, it's a litany of grievances against British law. So why are you bringing up British law? Never forget that the Bill of Rights is a litany of grievances against England. And I've told y'all this before, that every amendment in the Bill of Rights is arrayed by the importance of grievances that they had against the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom had their own church that Henry VIII created, the Anglican Church. You couldn't say what you wanted about the king. They'd come lock your ass up, the First Amendment. You couldn't bear they would confiscate any weapons, right? Which is why they ended up losing the Revolutionary War, because the militia and the soldiers we had here were much better shots from hunting. Second Amendment. The quartering the troops. Third Amendment. It's a litany of grievances against the United Kingdom. Let's go back. Now I'm gonna ask y'all this again because only one person answered the question. Do you want me to go back? Do you want me to go back to the conversations that the framers of the 14th Amendment were having? I'm gonna ask y'all that again. All right. Let's go back. All right, let's jump in the time machine real quick. Since this where y'all want to go. Let's jump in the time machine. All right. Congress debates the 14th Amendment. Quotations from the 1866 congressional debate over the 14th Amendment. Representative Eben Ingersoll, Republican from Illinois, comments on the potential of the amendment to change the nation. Carry out the policy of Andrew Johnson, and you will restore the old order of things. If government is not entirely destroyed, you will have the same old slave power, the enemy of liberty and justice, ruling this nation again, which ruled it for so many years. Now, what is Representative Ingersoll referring to? Representative Ingersoll is referring to the centuries long cycle of wars, starting with the Pequot Wars, that the colonial powers and then the United States had to fight against Black indigenous people. What's being wrestled here in these debates is the status of whether so-called Black people are human beings and whether Blacks that were freed from slavery shall be counted as citizens. Because I got news for you. Here's the tiny little detail that everybody glazes over when they talk about the 14th Amendment and the history of the 14th Amendment. And I'm surprised that y'all haven't caught on to it yet. They always talk about the Dred Scott case, and they always talk about free slaves, but it's one group of people that they conspicuously avoid ever mentioning. And you know who that is? Free Blacks. Because there were free Blacks, and there were free Blacks who were also slave owners. Notice that you don't hear nothing about blacks being banned from voting, the literacy tests and all of that shit until after Reconstruction. Why? Because those slave holding blacks who lived in the South were voting too. That's what they don't want you to know. That's what they always avoid mentioning. That's what the Dred Scott case avoided mentioning. It was plenty of free blacks that was property owners. Plenty of free blacks that own businesses, and even a few free blacks that own slaves. Yes, but they avoided me. That's actually what got this case fucked up, is that John Sauer didn't go. Remember, I did a live covering the oral arguments, and I said that right then and there. I said he's fucking this case up because he's avoiding the real history of the 14th Amendment, which made his argument less compelling. I said that when I did a live, when he was right while they was doing the oral arguments. But that's what that's what Representative Ingersoll is referring to. He understands how important the 14th Amendment is. He understands that it has to be a mechanism to assure that this issue of the humanity and citizenship of so-called black people will not rip the country in half again. Notice he said you will have the same old slave power. Who do you think he's referring to? Who do you think you're referring to? Senator Edgar Cowan, Democrat from Pennsylvania, comments on how the amendment will expand federal power. Right? Because the Democrats don't like that shit. They only like centralized federal power when they can use it. For some Ruby Ridge type shit or Elian Gonzalez, but they don't like it if they think it stands in the way of their political aims. What conceivable difference could it make to a citizen of Pennsylvania as to how Ohio distributes her political power? In touch, to venture upon that ground is to revolutionize the whole frame and texture of the system of government. Representative Thaddeus Stevens, Republican from Pennsylvania, comments on the compromises in the amendment. Do you inquire why those holding views and processing some will of my own, I accept so imperfect a proposition? I answer because I live among men and not among angels, among men as intelligent and determined as individuals, as independent as myself, who, not agreeing with me, do not choose to yield their opinions to mine. Mutual concession is therefore the only resort, or mutual hostilities. Now, what he's saying is that, hey, even though we know that the North won the war, we don't want to make policy that's going to be absolutely onerous, that's going to just start another civil war. We understand that y'all like treat niggas like slaves. And so while we maintain the opinion, the revolutionary idea that black people are humans too, we understand that you look at black people as animals. And so we are going to try to make this policy as much of a consensus as possible, not to offend your sensibilities, because we know that you think black people are animals. Section 1. Representative Thaddeus Stevens, Republican from Pennsylvania, comments on Section 1. Congress allows to correct the unjust legislation of the states, so far that the law which operates upon one man shall operate equally upon all. Whatever law punishes a white man for a crime shall punish the black man precisely in the same way and to the same degree. Whatever law protects the white man shall afford equal protection to the black man. Scholar Garrett Epps describes democratic opposition in Section 1. Now, listen to this. Andrew Rogers of New Jersey gave the fullest explanation of the opposition when he warned that the first section would take away the government's traditional power to choose among groups of citizens who are worthy of privileges and immunities. See, you see, right there, the Democrats are telling you, hey, we don't look at these monkeys as being human beings. How dare you? How dare you? The right to vote is a privilege, he said. We don't want black people to have political power. The right to marry is a privilege. We scared that he go fuck Becky. The right to contract is a privilege. We want to be able to cheat you niggas out of your money. The right to be a juror is a privilege. We want to hold kangaroo courts and convict niggas. The right to be a judge or president of the United States is a privilege. Never do I want to live under the authority of a black man. I hold that if Section 1 ever becomes a fundamental law of the land, it will prevent any state from refusing to allow anything anybody embraced under the term of privileges and immunities. That's the point, motherfucker. That, sir, will be an introduction to the time when despotism and tyranny will march forth undisturbed and unbroken in silence and darkness, keyword darkness, in this land which was once the land of freedom. So you see what the Democrat is saying now. If you let black people have any semblance of authority to white people, we see that as tyranny. We see that as an unacceptable condition to live under. How many times have I told y'all? How many times have I told y'all that the vision of the Democrat for this country was as a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant ethno state? And that still haven't changed. That still hasn't changed. Senator Jacob Howard, Republican from Michigan, comments on Section 1. Section 1, if adopted by the states, will forever disable every one of them from passing laws trenching upon those fundamental rights and privileges which pertain to the citizens of the United States and to all persons who may happen to be within their jurisdiction. It establishes equality before the law and gives it to the humblest, poorest, and most despised of the race, but at the same rights and same protection of those before the law, it gives the most powerful, the most wealthy, or the most haughty. That, sir, is Republican government. Thank you. As I understand it, and the only one which can claim the praise of a just government. Scholar Garrett Epps describes the impact of the amendment's definition of citizenship. Nearly a century and a half later, the language seems almost obvious, but in 1866, the preeminent national citizenship was a radical repudiation of the state sovereignty theory, which held that each state had a right to define its own qualifications for citizenship and that Americans were state citizens first and only secondarily citizens of the Union. Edgar Cowan of Pennsylvania spoke for the Democrats in repudiating the radical implications of the new language, which will make both the nation and each state within it into multiracial republics in which equality was a birthright and not the gift of the majority. The language, he said, in horror will make citizens of even the most undesirable nomads. Senator Edgar Cowan again, Democrat, warns about the ramifications of the amendment's definition of citizenship. There is a race in contact with this country in all characteristics except of making simply fierce war. It is not our equal, but perhaps our superior. I mean, the yellow race, the Mongol race. They outnumber us largely of their industry, their skill, their pertinency, and all worldly affairs nobody can doubt. They may pour in their millions upon our Pacific coast in a very short time. Are the states to lose control over this immigration? Is the United States to determine that they may be citizens? Now, he's referring to the Chinese. He's referring to the Chinese. Now we go into section 2. Scholar Garrett Epps describes Senator Jacob Howard's Republican from Michigan support for section 2. Listen to this. I favor black suffrage. To some extent, at least, I am exposed to the exclusion and proscription of an entire race. But the committee did not believe a suffrage amendment could be ratified. So the second section is so drawn to make it a political interest of the once slave-holding states to admit their colored population to the right of suffrage. It will operate whether the southern states drew a racial line to exclude free slaves from voting or formally used a non-racial category like a literacy test, he said. Like I said, you don't hear about this until Reconstruction starts, literacy tests and all of this shit. Why? Because before then, blacks who were slaveholders were indeed voting. So so it's obvious that who they talking about. It's obvious who they talking about. So now 124 years after the Wong Kim Art case, now we want to play dumb. It's funny how I'll give you an example. And it's just so much gaslighting when it comes to this shit. It's funny how when you talk about the First Amendment, right? When you talk about the First Amendment, one of the first things that the Democrats will try to weaponize, and please don't be surprised because they're quoting a slaveholder. They will talk about the separation of church and state. Nowhere does it say that in the Constitution. It says that nowhere in the Constitution. That comes from the Federalist Papers. That comes from quotes from Thomas Jefferson in the Federalist Papers. So it's crazy that they can cite extra constitutional sources and notes from different people that were in government fomenting the creation of certain amendments and laws and statutes when it's for their political gain. But then when it's something like this, they got amnesia. In that majority opinion, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear them talk about any of that. I didn't hear them talk about any of that. But it's a very very transparent gaslight that they're trying to pass off as a majority decision. Because if they would have if they would have had this all encompassing kumbaya view of American citizenship at the time they ratified the 14th Amendment, again, it wouldn't have said Indians not taxed in Section 2. It would have said it was for everybody. It would have said it was for everybody. And they couldn't, and like I said before, they couldn't have said They couldn't include the Indians in it, because then if that's the case, you wouldn't have any Western states, because it says in Section 1 that you can't be denied of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. So they wouldn't have been able to do it. Now I'm gonna say this again. John Sauer fucked this case up. He fucked it up. And I'm talking about the Solicitor General of the United States. John Sauer fucked this case up when he was debating it. He should have went back and cited the cycle of wars going back to King Philip's War and the Pequot Wars and the Yamasee Wars and the Seminole Wars, and why this was necessary, and how the Civil War was just one more in the series of all of those wars. He should have cited that, and I think he would have had much more of a compelling argument. And I think it's really fair to say that Trump fucked up by picking Amy Coney Barrett. I've said that from the very beginning, and I'm saying it even louder right now. Now, why do I say that this is just like the Dred Scott case in reverse? The Dred Scott case was actually unconstitutional, just like this case is. The reason that the Dred Scott case was unconstitutional is because in the Dred Scott case, Justice Taney maintained that, nobody of African descent could be seen as a United States citizen. But he omitted an entire class of people who had already been here. He omitted the many free blacks that had already been here. He omitted mentioning of them. And the same way that this case, that this verdict, this decision omits mention of the free blacks to extend citizenship, I guess, to anybody who can get here. Now, for everybody running the victory lap, you might want to slow your roll. First of all, yeah, you might have this decision, right? Wait, give me a minute. So that's why I say that this is just like the Dred Scott case in reverse. But for those who are running the victory lap, slow your roll. First of all, and Tech Boy says that he hopes that the president has a contingency plan. Right now, he can issue an executive order that says any foreign national that appears to be 6 months or more pregnant will not be allowed to enter the United States. Just like that. Just like that. Just like that. That's easy to enforce. You didn't know I was back on YouTube. Well, I'm back, goddammit. Yes. That's right, goddammit, I'm back. I'm always back because I'm always fucking being deleted. Yeah, I'm always being deleted. That's why I'm back. Right? But that's what he can do right now. Just say that, hey, if you appear to be 6 months pregnant or better, you know, you can't enter the United States. I do you one better. He can issue a memo through Homeland Security. See, you got to realize that there's some parts about executive power that can't be checked. Y'all realize that part? It's some parts about executive power that cannot be checked. For instance, the president doesn't need to consult Congress or nothing to launch a nuclear strike. He can just say, hey, dude, hey, come over here. Let me talk to you. You with the football. Open that suitcase up. It's some parts of presidential power that cannot be checked. So another thing, and I know that the Democrats are go whine and complain and bitch. They go whine and complain and bitch. But look how many executive orders that Obama issued. Remember, he said, I got an ink pen and I'll use it. I got an ink pen, I got the bully pulpit, and I use it. That's what Obama said, right? He can just have all women walk through the motherfucking x-ray machine. You pregnant now, bitch, you got to turn around. You got to turn around. We not admitting you. You won't gain access to the United States today. They can set up x-ray machines in this motherfucker just like they got in Colombia. Cause they will x-ray your ass in Colombia, trust me. They will x-ray your ass. They'll know what you have for lunch in Colombia when you come through their customs. Colombia customs ain't nothing nice. Coming or going. I promise you. If it's two countries who customs don't motherfucking play, it's Colombia and Panama. They shit, nigga. They don't fuck around. I went through Panama and they confiscated some motherfucking razor blades that I had in a fucking barber kit. And it had clippers and all that shit in there. They took that shit from me. They took my razor blades. And I told them, I'm like, this is just for me to line my beard up. It's not gonna be, it's gonna be in my it's not gonna be in my carry-on luggage. She was like, no, I'm sorry. So I'm like, all right, man, okay. Okay. Add Cutter to the list too. Okay, I never been there. I know Colombia and Panama they will inspect your shit, nigga. We can just get on the same shit. It's not hard. It's not hard. We matter of fact, we can actually have some of them the police from Colombia to come here and show TSA how to use the machines. It's all type of shit Trump can do. So if you running the victory lap, slow your roll. Number two, it's nowhere near as easy to get into the United States to even end up having the motherfucking kids like it used to be. It's nowhere near as easy. So I don't understand why people are so happy. A lot of these tellers, they might be happy, but Gorsuch And Kavanaugh made a very good suggestion to Trump. He talked about either a constitutional amendment or some type of legislation. I'm gonna tell y'all right off the bat, a constitutional amendment will be kind of hard, right? We got 27 amendments. To make a 28th amendment of the Constitution would be kind of hard. No, that won't work either, Corey. It could, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna have a lot of abandoned children, which is why they were like that's where the term tether baby came from, because there was a financial decision. It was also a political decision by previous administrations to let these non-domicile aliens come here and have kids, to keep them here with the kids, because they will say, oh well, that's the custodial parent, that's a U.S. citizen, so we not go. Now Trump is deporting their ass. Now, if the kid want to come back and revisit their U.S. citizenship at a later date, they well within their rights to do so. But for now, you got to get the fuck on. Nah, see, you almost. Claude Legris writes, then some piece of shit liberal judge will put an injunction on any action that any executive order that Trump might take, and then that will be taken to this same lame ass court. Not when it comes to rules like that. Not when it comes to like smart rule that would be nah. That type of executive power is something that really can't be checked. It can't be. Painless Risen writes, I've seen constitutional amendments tried at the state level extremely difficult. Yes. 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 Prius writes, these refugees are pissed at Black Americans, but not at white Americans who are forcing them out of the country. They mad because we can't get deported with them. Well, I wouldn't say white Americans forcing them out of the country. It's the American system that's forcing them out of the country. It's all of us that's forcing them out of the country because we belong here and they don't. Now, I have right here the majority opinion. If y'all want to gander through it, we're not going to go through all 194 pages of this shit. Oh, no, this is the legal brief. I'm sorry. I'll read the first few paragraphs. The question presented is whether the United States, the Constitution guarantees citizenship to children born in the United States of parents who are unlawfully or temporarily present in the country. Under the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. On January 20th, 2025, President Trump issued Executive Order number 14160, entitled Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship. The order provides that children born in the United States of parents who are unlawfully or temporarily present are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, thus do not qualify for citizenship under the 14th Amendment or the Immigration and Nationality Act, which use the same language. Several parents filed suit, some in the name of their children, arguing that the executive order violates the 14th Amendment and the INA. The district court provisionally certified a wide class of children who have been denied citizenship by the order and preliminarily enjoined the order's enforcement. This court granted certiorari before judgment. Okay. First of all, another thing that makes this decision today bizarre is before we had a Supreme Court case based around people who were diplomats having children here. Earlier this year, that was decided upon. Right? So I don't know why they would go backwards. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Congressionally, an amendment would be kind of difficult. But what they can do is just modify the Immigration and Naturalization Act policy. That's relatively easy. If they can get the fucking rhinos in the Senate to comply, that's relatively easy. Yep, thank you, Douglas. That's all this is. That's all this is about. If this ruling is valid, then PPP, PPB, and veteran expats will be eligible for dual citizenship in another country. Get the fuck out of here, man. This is to ensure Democrats have staying power in the electorate. That's all that's about. Yeah. Yeah. Again, for anybody that's running a victory lap, that's jumping up and down, celebrating, I want you to understand something. The government can say one thing, but the citizens can disagree, and violently. The government can say one thing, but the citizenry can disagree violently. Plessy versus Ferguson, anyone? Little Rock, anyone? The government can hold a position that the citizens don't agree with. And I think that going down in history, this is going to be one of them. Right? This decision is going to lead to widespread ethnic animosity. And I'm going to tell y'all something. It's not going to come from the place that you think it's going to come from. See, a lot of people, I go see this decision and they probably go think like, oh, they go think it's going to be on some shit like in the 30s, where when black dudes try to go get jobs, the white dudes would be, at the factory with baseball bats. It ain't going to be like that. A lot of people are making that assumption. It's not going to be like that. See, us blue collar workers, we used to get fucked over thoroughly. We don't have private equity stuck up our ass, massive immigration, all of that. We used to it. So we kind of jaded to it. No, the animosity that you go see is going to come from white collar private sector workers. Watch. As budgets get tighter, as resources get more scarce, as inflation gets worse, as AI start taking some of these jobs and you get layoffs and shit, who you think they go look at? Who you think they go look at? Because the show ain't gonna be black folks. No, they go look at you, Habib. They go look at you, Wang Chu. That's who they go look at. They go look at all of these tethers who might be first generation but can still barely speak the fucking language. That's who they gonna be looking at. That's who they go look at. They go look at these legacy employees that's the children of people who had H-1B visas who use fraudulent information to get them anyway. That's what they gonna be looking at. And when they turn around and they look at the way that they overextended their credit, they got 2 cars on the repo list, they clipping coupons, they gonna be kind of pissed off. And where is the first place, if history serves us correct about the United States, where's the first place that their rage is going to be funneled to? It's whoever their outgroup is. And this time is not black people. This time is not black people. Yeah, that's right. Hit the cash app, goddammit. What up, Saul? This time is not black folks. It's not us this time. No. Mm-mm. You already have professionals complaining about them filing electronically hundreds of resumes and not even getting a call back. And then one day they say, and use an Indian name or a Chinese or Asian sounding name and get a call back immediately. It's a lot of people making videos and making short form documentaries about that. Oh man, the animosity is already building. If I was a lot of y'all people that's foreign nationals this here, and a lot of you first, second generation, I will see the writing on the wall and get the fuck out. I will see the writing on the wall and get the fuck out. Do not let these motherfucking Democrats and MS Now gas your head up and talk about how the police go protect you and all. Get the fuck out. Because these same Democrats that's willing to use y'all for political gain ain't gonna be nowhere to personally protect you when the shit hit the fan. They not. When you get your ass whooped in the Walmart parking lot, they not gonna be there to help you. And it ain't near a host on MS Now or The View that's gonna be there to help you. If we have another stock market crash and shit get real ugly like it did in 08, ain't nobody gonna help you when motherfuckers single you out as blaming you as the reason. If I was y'all, I would read the writing on the wall and get the fuck out of the country before it get real ugly. Because all it take is another stock market crash. All it take is some bullshit ass controversy in the Middle East where they decide to raise gas again. That's y'all. That's how thin the ice is that y'all asses is skating on right now with this decision. Y'all should have been read the tea leaves before when Trump was running for this second term, and they just put a question of, do you think all illegal aliens should, do you favor mass deportations? The overwhelming majority of people said yes. Not Democrats, not Republicans. The overwhelming majority of every motherfucking body said yes. They don't want you here. Y'all have worn out y'all welcome here. And y'all want to try to compare y'allself to them immigrants that came in Ellis Island. Y'all can't. Them people that came in Ellis Island, you know what the fuck they did? They learned how to speak English. They washed their ass. They went to the military in 2 world wars and in Korea and Vietnam. Y'all not doing none of that. Y'all not doing none of that. All y'all doing is coming here and letting some motherfucking Take Boy, thanks for the cash app. Don't let that brother be alone. All y'all doing is coming here and letting some community navigator steer you to a bunch of resources that your ass shouldn't be getting in the first place. Oh, and another thing, white people not even running around talk. That's another thing. For the first time, probably in the history of this motherfucking country, they not publicizing so-called black people as being the face of public aid no more. No, now they talking about y'all. They talking about immigrants now. They talking about illegal aliens. That's who they seeing as the face of public aid now. And then every day, Nick Shirley or some other citizen journalist is breaking stories about massive fucking welfare fraud, massive fraud with these daycares, massive fraud with these hospices and shit. And then when the average American see all of these nice cars and shit that y'all don't bought with this fraud with their tax money while they going to work slaving every motherfucking day, the animosity is building. You need to get the fuck up out of this country. You need to get the fuck up out of this country. Straight up. Y'all don't fucked up so bad. Y'all got Ann Coulter defending black people. Timbo writes, many of these new folk who made it to Harvey don't even stop at stop signs. If they hit somebody's car, they go fuck around and get killed. That's another thing. Y'all driving, don't pay attention to traffic laws, driving drunk all the time and shit. The minute somebody notice that y'all not a regular American, they probably gonna end up shooting you. Because they gonna be so angry because they know that they not gonna get no money out of you or nothing in court. They go haul off and shoot your ass. Shit, I was just in the dollar store last week, and some little illegal alien bitch stepped up on the fucking, put her foot inside the freezer to stand up and get something that was on the top rack. And then, of course, all of the black folks like, what the fuck you putting your nasty ass? It's food in there. Why you putting your motherfucking foot in the freezer? And they ran their ass up out of that store. they ran their ass up out of that store. Because where I live at, it's a food desert. We don't have no grocery stores in here. So you want to come, and the only source of food that some people got, if they ain't got a car to go nowhere, you want to come in here and pollute the only source of food that they got? Oh no, they ran their ass up out of that store. That's just a small sample of the animosity that a lot of y'all are gonna run into. So I mean, it's regrettable that they came, that the court arrived at this decision. I'm not really surprised, because like I said, during the oral arguments, I already told y'all, like, man, I don't know, because he not presenting the case right. It's regrettable that they came to this decision. I'm not surprised, but at the same time, if you one of these immigrants, do not get too motherfucking happy. Do not get too happy, because like I said, just because the government of the country say one thing, that don't mean that the citizens agree. I'm telling y'all, y'all need to see the writing on the wall, and y'all need to get the fuck on. Straight up, before it get ugly. Nice show. Hey man, thanks for the PayPal. You know what? Nice show. You know what, boy? Remember you was making fun of me talking about I tried to make my own polo shirt. You pissed me off, and I did make my own polo shirt, nigga. I actually did make my own polo shirt. I wish I was wearing it right now. You pissed me off that day, and I would have made my own polo shirt. Distant Rose writes, saw a video on X of a Pajit with a gun trying to road rage and got blasted in the face, collapsed like a sack of potatoes. Felt good to watch those. Oh my God, he trying to pull a gun out on somebody in America. Motherfuckers don't do nothing but shooting here. Motherfuckers don't do nothing but shooting here. Or I seen a woman have a dispute with a cashier in another store around here, and the illegal alien bitch called the police, and the police came there and locked her ass up. They ain't even say nothing to her. They like big cuffs. They're like, bitch, get this guy. y'all, hey man, and the police was black. Oh, I can explain that to you, Trevor. That's easy to take apart right there. Trevor said, I used to work with a guy who said that he doesn't go to gas station shops where Indians are the owners. I'm a bit foggy on what he said, but they would change ownership of the business every so often. The reason that they would change ownership of the business every so often is that when they first come here, they get 7 years of tax exempt status. Right? And since they get 7 years of tax exempt status, what they do is when their status is about to end, they pass it to somebody else who just got here so they can indefinitely have tax exempt status. That's the game that they play. And then here go the crazy part. One of them could come here and have 4 wives, but only have one of them on paper as their wife. So then they have all of their wives go and get public aid, and who you think they wife go do? What you think they wife go do with that public aid money? They go hand that card straight to their fucking husband, right? So imagine, watch this. This is how bad that taxpayers are being scammed. You could come here, have 4 wives, one on paper. Then they give you, then you get a store, and you tax exempt for 7 years. You can take and buy the inventory that y'all have with the wives' public aid, then turn around and sell it back to citizens who provided your inventory with their own tax dollars. Ain't that crazy? Why y'all think it don't be? Why do y'all think that at some of these hood Arab stores y'all go to, they don't even charge y'all tax? They don't charge you tax because they trying to trick you into thinking that you getting a deal. They charge you above market value for everything you get in that store. So they say, fuck it, why charge tax? They can't collect tax because they tax exempt. They send their wives, they take their wives' link cards. They go to Walmart. You can see them in Walmart. You can see them in Walmart with 4 carts of gallons of milk or 4 carts of water. That's because they taking that back to their store and they finna sell you that shit for more than it is in Walmart that was paid for by your tax dollars, and then sell it and not have to pay taxes on the sales. That's another thing. That's another thing y'all need. That's another thing. Y'all immigrants need to be aware of white jealousy. White jealousy is a motherfucker. White jealousy will get your ass lynched. Ask a nigga. White jealousy will get your ass lynched. Science got rights. Hopefully, many of these white Americans see that living next to Jamal might be better than living next to musty Indians. Yeah. But if they realized how these Indians was making money coming and going, if they only knew. Once white people begin to realize that, that's really when y'all ass in trouble. That's really when y'all ass in trouble. What? What the fuck? Distant Rose writes, my mother once suggested we go on vacation to India once. Man, for a second, I forgot she was my mom and was ready to smack the shit out of her. Lord, forgive me. Why India, though? Shit, if you go to India, nigga, you better get a motherfucking nostrils transplant because you gonna need it. I don't want to go to no country where they don't like wearing deodorant. And that includes India, any of them West African countries, France, any place where motherfuckers don't like deodorant. I don't want to be there. Egypt. I heard motherfuckers in Egypt be wearing tailor-made silk Armani suits, musty than a motherfucker. Musty than a motherfucker. Any country where they not wearing deodorant, I don't want to be there. But yeah, man, they really did drop the ball with this one, man. They dropped the ball on this one, but this is gonna have possibly some dire ramifications down the line. It's been a Black Pill PSA. Peace.